What's up, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Brewing with Beckie. It has been some time again, so apologies for the delay in a new episode, but really excited about this one. One of my best friends and national team teammates joins me. Jessie Fleming is my guest today, so exciting episode. We chat coffee, how long we've known each other, which is quite some time, I discovered. A lot about the mental aspect of the game, her journey over here to the UK, and as always, we have a little bit of fun. So, without further ado, enjoy the episode. This is Brewing with Beckie, Jessie Fleming. Okay, Jessie Fleming is on the podcast today. Jessie, welcome to Brewing with Beckie. It's so good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
This is fun. We've been trying to do this for a long time. There's, a lot going on in our lives right now. It's very exciting times. We go to training and we come home. So there's clearly not enough time to do this in the day.
I mean, I talk to you sometimes. This is very formal. We talk.
We do. I'm just messing with you. But thank you for coming on. I appreciate your time. That's not true. Don't listen to her, anyone. So a little bit of a tradition we have on the podcast is introduce your coffee. Tell us about your coffee.
Oh, I thought we were cheersing.
Cheers. No, that's great. Cheers. Yep. Good. Yes. What you got there? It's a nice cup.
Just an oat milk coffee, drip coffee.
Ooh. Mm. The alternative milks. We're into that sort of thing, are we?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know when that started. I don't know. I just like oat milk. I like the flavor, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, I'm the same. I go through like almond milk, oat milk, regular milk. It's kind of like a thing, I guess. Yeah, I've got a similar coffee on tap. I've got a nice filter. Wow. Yeah, it's on tap these days. That's how we're saying it. We've got a nice filter with some regular milk in my Ember cup. I'm going to do a shameless plug for Ember right here. If you've not heard of Ember, they're a fabulous company of mugs and travel mugs that keep your drink warm through Bluetooth on your phone. So this is 2021. If you don't have an Ember mug, get on it.
So this is how you're getting paid.
I'm not getting paid.
I'm still waiting for my cut.
That's all I'm good for. Okay, so great that you have a drink. I have a drink. We may have to have you back on the podcast when we can do this in person, so we can actually have a nice coffee chat in person. But for now, Zoom will have to do. So yep. At least you could see my face one way or the other. So for those of you who don't know, I've known Jessie for, I probably should have done this math ahead of time. 2014, did we meet? Under 20s?
Yeah.
So my goodness, that's 7 years. Is that the right? 6 years. 7.
Well, almost 7.
Almost 7. I'm including this year. So this November, it will be 7 years. Why you're still friends with me, I don't know, but I must be doing something right. Because
there were some growing pains, but
ooh, would you like to talk about those growing pains?
No. I mean, there's growing pains with every friendship, but
yeah.
But
back up.
Yeah. But yeah, we get along. I mean, we spent a lot of time together, like under 20s, Pan Ams, and then the national team. So
it's been a wild ride. Jessie and I have been, friends for a long time. She's my roomie for national team camp, which by the end of the World Cup, I think that you really were not a fan of mine.
No, I mean, I'm a very patient person, and you have your roommate quirks. You like things very particular, and I find it funny, so it works.
I have had the pleasure of rooming with Jessie while she's gone through school, and I finished school a long time ago. Probably should go back, but nah. And Jessie here is quite the student. We've had many occasions of my Netflix watching and her trying to do her homework, and then I get bored and then I try and mess with her while she's doing her homework. If you want to push Jessie's buttons, that is the fastest way to do it.
Don't write on the page I'm writing on.
She's got these big sticky things that she sticks to the wall. They're like these big, I don't know, like sticky sheets. You just stick them on the wall. And she does all her equations on there. Don't touch those. Those are off limits.
No.
So we've had some good times together. Many to come. So a couple interesting topics to jump on today. See what we can get out of her. That's really the goal of this whole thing. So it's been a year since the national team has been together. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, it has not been a year since I've seen Jessie. So, oh, that was cute. That was a nice thing to say. Sidebar. The people are wondering why I call you Jeffrey.
Who are the people?
The people. Just the people. The people.
That one person over there.
Yeah. The one person that's asking.
Why you call me Jeffrey?
Yeah. What's the story behind Jeff?
Gosh. This one practice, John, our old coach, had just said something to Steph Labe, our goalkeeper, in front of the team. And then he went to say my name, and Jeff came out of his mouth. And everyone thought it was hilarious. And then Jeff became my short form nickname. And of course, the long form is Jeffrey. And then, of course, that caught on because, So that's my nickname. That
might have been one of my favorite moments of actual practice. And what if anyone knows John, John is very serious when he's in the middle of training, explaining something. And so it's funny because he immediately just lost it the second it came out of his mouth. And it's like one of those things that when a coach says something funny, you don't really know whether you should laugh or not unless they start laughing. But he gave us the green light as soon as he went off. So that's the history of Jeffrey for all of you people that have wondered over the years why I continue to call her Jeff. And Jeffrey's just a fun name. So that's that story, which is good. But these days, Jessie and I are both in the United Kingdom. Mm-hmm. We've ventured across the pond into the Barclays WSL. And I've been here. This is my third year in the WSL, and this is Jessie's first year. So we've had some great conversations about similar experiences and the challenges and the benefits of being over here and making the move. So what convinced you to come over here? Because obviously you had options to play in the NWSL, you had options to play in other countries. And what was it that made the decision for you?
I think a lot of different things. I think I knew I wanted to go to Europe because I'd kind of had the opportunity to see you and Keish and Ash and other players on our team kind of grow over in the leagues in Europe. And then I think another big thing is just like the culture of football in England is like overwhelming. Like I feel like they live and breathe it here, which I think is really unique. Obviously COVID restricts any ability to like go watch the men's team play at their stadium, but I think just like the passion and culture around football was really important to me. And and then I think just the opportunity to play with different players who I've never played before. And I think something I really love about our team is just we have a very diverse lineup, so people from lots of different countries, and I think there's a lot to learn because everyone's kind of come from a different football upbringing, and so a lot of different things. But it's been good.
I think it's been so cool to see so much of our team make the transition overseas, because obviously there's 4 of us here now. There's a few in France, a couple in Sweden, and especially for this camp coming up, a lot of the roster is in Europe, which is really exciting because that means that a lot of us are currently playing games, which is better for everyone.
Exactly. And like it's not. Oh, sorry. No, I was just gonna say like it's not an easy transition. Like obviously we're far away from our families, and some people don't do well with the weather. Not mentioning any names, but so it is.
I don't know if you're talking about me or talking
about the weather every single day. You text me, you're like, it's raining. I'm like, Janine, that's what it is.
It's raining. Well, here's the thing about the weather. I will say, for all of my UK listeners,
change the weather.
That. And I was pleasantly surprised when I moved here. I thought it was going to be way worse. Like literally nonstop rain all day, every day. And don't get me wrong, there have been times where I've not seen the sun for a long while. We're in that spell right now.
Yeah.
It's
you can get
gray outside.
I read
mood lamps,
daylight lamps. Maybe mood is the same thing. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I have one.
And it stimulates or replicates the daylight. It's supposed to really help with sleep, actually.
Well, be honest, I have one. It's been in the drawer since I bought it, so maybe we should give that a go. But rewind back to the topic that we were on. Yeah, it definitely doesn't come without its challenges, and especially this year. Obviously, both of us weren't able to travel home for Christmas, which was really difficult, and we both got to experience our first British Christmas time, so that was nice. But let's hope that COVID makes its way out the door before the holiday season 2021. My hopes are high. My expectations are low.
Nice.
That's how we've been going in these past couple months. But back on the topic of just being in England, what do you think has been the biggest challenge for you? Let's do on the pitch and off the pitch.
Okay, biggest challenges. I mean, I think on the pitch, it's a tough question. I wish you would have prompted me with questions. But anyways, on the pitch.
Can't ruin it. It gotta be spur of the moment. You can't prepare for these things.
I don't know. On the pitch, I think coming into it, I knew it was going to be a step up just in the quality of player, kind of, the intensity of training and whatnot. But I think the learning process and the process of getting better, it's not easy. It sounds great, it sounds easy, but then it's hard when, you have a bad training session or, you're not playing a ton of minutes, but so I think just, reminding yourself why you're doing it and kind of leaning into improving at things. It's hard because you have to admit that, okay, maybe, this needs work. I'm not very good at this, in order to work on it and go do it. And it's not that it's embarrassing, but yeah, it kind of it is in a way, if you're a little bit behind the level of some of your teammates. So yeah, I think I definitely struggled a bit at the start, just keeping things in perspective and remembering who I'm playing beside. I think watching Gigi and Melly, and the list goes on and on. We have so many great players, so I think it's easy to forget who you're playing beside, and you just start to compare yourself to those people. And
absolutely.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, that's definitely been a big challenge. But at the end of the day, I know it'll be a good thing. But yeah, I think just kind of some growing pains with that.
I think it's difficult. I had obviously a very similar experience to you when I first came over here, and I am in my third season at City. I'm very comfortable. I have great friends. I know the staff in and out. They know me. We're obviously in very different places from that perspective, but I still have those same growing pains, if you will. And I think it's easy to forget, like you're saying, who you're playing next to. It's these tier 1 top quality international players. And, when you find yourself not on the team sheet for the game, it's so easy to be like, well,
yeah,
is this ever going to change?
Exactly.
What do I need to do to really cement myself? But I think what I've learned is, when you have a team like yours and a team like mine, where you've got far beyond 11 players that are good enough to be on the pitch, that's how you win trophies, is with those rosters and with that depth. And it can be really hard to manage the mindset behind not playing all the time, because obviously as competitors and as people, I think for me, and you can speak to this and how you feel about it, the sacrifices that we've made to come over here, it's kind of well, when you're not playing, it's well, what am I doing this for, almost? And that feels really daunting and really dramatic. And I think that's the whole perspective thing is, well, actually, this is the best training environment I can be in.
Yeah.
And as much as I want to play in games, and maybe I deserve to be playing in games, but I'm not, the improvement actually doesn't come from games as much as it comes from training.
Yeah, no, I know. Like and it's also hard to compare yourself when you're just in the same environment all the time. So you're questioning like, am I really improving? But I think like there's so many little things you can steal from other players. Like again, just watching someone like Gigi or, even like, I don't know, just people with more international experience and more experience at the club level, or just like stealing things that people are doing in practice, and you're like, oh, but then it's like, oh, okay, like I can do that too. And I think, yeah, I don't know, I just think there's so much you can learn from players like that. And it just, yeah, I mean, you're forced to kind of grow with it. And yeah, no, it's just a challenge. But
it's a interesting mix between like constantly putting yourself in the right mindset, in the right perspective, but at the same time like not falling behind. So like everyone's moving forward, the level's getting higher, people are playing in games, and it's like kind of this constant like I got to stay up at the level, and that's so important, and it's such a great thing that we're learning, because then you peg a level and you don't really ever drop below that level. And if it's everyone obviously has a bad day, but the bad days become fewer and further between.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean,
every day.
Yeah, and I think like I had a similar experience when I first came on the national team. Like I mean, I definitely was not at the level. And
how old were you when you made your first appearance?
I don't know. Anyways, I like
15?
Almost 16.
Okay, so 15.
Anyways. But yeah, like I just wasn't at the level, but I think that's a moment where I really grew a lot, because I mean, that was kind of a lot of the reason why I came here, is because I wanted to go somewhere where the way I was currently playing just wasn't good enough. And so you're forced to kind of like rethink, like, okay, what do I need to improve as a player? Like, where do I need to improve to get to this level? Otherwise, you're kind of just like, oh, what I'm doing right now is acceptable, and I can get with it. So
that's actually a really good segue, because I feel like so much of what I've experienced here, I've been able to cope with and work through and learn from because of the habits and learnings that I've gotten from being in our environment with the national team.
Yeah.
And the culture and like sports psychology resources that we have. So for those of you who don't know, we have a fantastic sports psychologist that we work with on the national team. His name is Alex Hodgins. Shout out, Alex. He's the greatest. And I know for Jessie and I both, he's just worked wonders. But we have this concept that we talk about on the national team a lot, which is just like really intentional, uncomfortable growth. And I think that that's literally been, if you could put an umbrella over moving to the UK in a place where you don't know anyone, where you've never lived, for you, moving into your first professional environment, an incredible challenge. And that umbrella is uncomfortable. Like, that's the best way to describe it. And I think we've done so many things on the national team and so much work in that space. It's like an oxymoron, but like being comfortable in the uncomfortable all the time.
And I mean, like, I still like fail at that. Like, I still have to work so hard at it. It doesn't come easy. I just feel like a lot of these things are really easy to be like, oh yeah, it's great. Like, it's a challenge and it's really uncomfortable, but like, it definitely, I don't know, it just takes a lot of work.
It has to be so intentional, and it has to be like almost like calculated how you do it, because you have to pay attention to it. If you don't pay attention to it, then naturally as human beings we fall into the place of finding what we're comfortable with and staying there.
Yeah, you're trying to find the balance between like confidence and complacency, and like you're trying to change yourself or like what you're currently doing, but then also like you were trying to have some self-compassion with your circumstances. And so it's kind of just like this constant like balancing act, and having to reflect on like, okay, what went right today? What went wrong today? Why was I thinking what I was thinking? How can I change this in the future? It's kind of just like lots of little tweaking, and I get it wrong a lot. Like there's been days where I call my mom on the car ride home from training and I'm just like, oh, I was terrible today. And then like I think the difference is like I can say that, but then it's like the next morning I get up and like I'm gonna try again and I'm gonna do my best to make that day better. And like I don't know, yeah, it sounds easy, but
oh, trust me, it is not easy. I know exactly what you're talking about. And you mentioned the term self-compassion, which you taught me not that long ago. And it's actually something that I've really reflected on a lot. And I think it's so important as high performers. We talk about another term we use in the environment is just being in a high performance environment. And being at our club is a high performance environment as well. And I think Jessie introduced me to this podcast. So we're going to do another shameless plug on a podcast. Tell the people what it was.
It's my favorite podcast. It's called The Tim Ferriss Show. And Tim Ferriss interviews high performers, not just athletes. So he interviews business people, athletes, politicians, actors, sports psychs.
Yep.
Everyday people who are very good at what they do, and kind of just ask questions about, I don't know, I guess just like their philosophy on certain things or how they got to where they are. Yeah, I don't know. It's really good. He's able to get the golden nuggets out of these people. And there was a really good one that Janine and I had listened to. He was interviewing Jim Lohr, who's a sports psych for a ton of American Olympians.
More so individual athletes than team athletes, which as a team athlete, it's super interesting to listen to those kind of people speak about their experiences with individual athletes. I gotta say, hats off to individual athletes, because I find it so hard to be a high performer in an environment of lots of high performers all the time. So I can't imagine the mental capacity that these individual athletes have. But in this episode, towards the end, they get into a conversation about The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. And I found this so interesting, who Michael Jordan was in his environment and how he was just like the epitome of intensity all the time. Like it never, ever shut off. And I think a lot of people walked away from that documentary, including me, not thinking that he was like a mean human, but also like kind of shocked by the way that he spoke to his teammates and the way that like he acted. And for me, it was such an interesting dynamic because he was like also such a good teammate. Anyways, that's a sidebar. But in this podcast, they talk about the link between moral values and success. Mm-hmm. And they use Roger Federer as an example. So you speak to that because we had talked about it before.
Yeah, well, I think like when they were using the Last Dance example, I think a lot of people perceive Michael Jordan as this kind of like ruthless guy who, yeah, I don't know. And I think a lot of people have this image of people at the top being that way. And I think the point the podcast was trying to make was that there's more than one way to get there. And they use Roger Federer and Dan Jansen, who's a speed skater, I believe, as examples of people who they were just nice guys, very good human beings, and kind of have really strong ties to a moral or ethical purpose greater than themselves. So I know Roger Federer does a lot of work with educating kids in Africa, and with Dan Jansen, I think he was just really attached to like sharing the beauty of his sport. And like I think they were trying to make the point that there's more to life than our sports, and that people who have a purpose attached to other human beings or something a little bit bigger than just your sport. Like I think they were talking about how it drives success.
And that's what made me think of our team, because we are in this culture of like, I really have never been on a team other than ours where like there's not one person that has an obvious issue with someone else. Like when I go around our team, I'm like, you know what? Every single person on this team I would like to spend time with.
Yeah.
And that like goes for the staff too. And I just think that that's so special. And this podcast just made me think about that. But that when he speaks about Dan Jansen,
I think so.
he talks about how this sports psych has worked with 17 number ones in the world in different sports, which is outrageous. But he said that no matter how many world titles these athletes were winning, their happiness didn't rely on those titles. So he's saying, like, as human beings, as athletes, we have this sense that when we become number one, when we win the World Cup, when we win an Olympic gold medal, you like hit this.
Fulfilled.
Yeah, you're like, oh, if that's happiness, I found it. I'm done. Yeah. This is like the epitome of my life. And it's actually super empty. And so when he talks about Roger Federer and Dan Jensen, am I saying Jensen or Jansen? Because this keeps happening.
I'm not sure. I think it's Jansen.
What? Dan, we apologize. I'm gonna say Dan from now on. Anyways, and she's Googling it. This is how Jessie Fleming's brain works.
I think it's Jansen.
Okay. Anyways, besides the point, other than we don't like when people pronounce our names wrong. He was prepared to retire from speed skating without a world title because he was just that happy with the way that the sport made him feel and the beauty and joy that brought him. And I just think that's like so incredible.
Yeah.
But anyways,
it's funny because he ended up winning the world title, and in a way, I think what the podcast is getting at is that his philosophy behind it and the fact that he just had an underlying just love of the sport, wanted to do things properly, that got him the world title, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that the other example they used was when they asked like a room full of people to describe themselves at their best.
Oh my gosh, yes, that was so interesting.
A list of words, or the other way he framed it was like what do you want to be written on your gravestone, which is kind of morbid, but what ended up happening, I guess, is that pretty much everyone wrote the same words, and they were there was just like this moment of awe because everyone had written like, I'm like kind, empathetic, present, like a good brother or dad.
Left the world better than I found it.
And none of it was tied to like money or success or like no one. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah.
I see that. I think it's so crazy because you and I earlier in this talked about, keeping perspective. And when you get in your car and you call your mom and you're like, Mom, I was so bad today. And then it's like, honestly, I feel so silly sometimes because we make a bad training session like so big in our minds. And in the grand scheme of things, oh my gosh, how many freaking training sessions have we had in our lives? So many. Yeah. But then I'm like, in 10 years, if I can play for another 10 years, body, please. When I look back on my career, even now, like when I look back on even the 3 years that I've been at City, what my favorite moments have been, it's been like the little things and the things that like I leave and you remember make me really happy. Yeah, winning trophies is great. Celebrating with your team is great, but it's all the things that happen in the small moments and the times you get to spend with your teammates and the things that truly make you happy as a human being. And I think that that's kind of what this is getting at. Yeah. And so at the end of your career, people like to say, well, you hopefully you achieved so much, but it's actually so much deeper than that. And I think that's so much of why we play, because of all of those little moments. Anyways, this podcast just really, really made me think of our team. And we always talk about how we need to be meaner. And I think like there is a level of that. Obviously it's competition and we want to win and stuff, but I just think it's so special that we have this amazing foundation of just being good human beings, because that's just be a good person. Be a good person. Another shameless plug for one of my good friends. If you have never gone on their website, beagoodperson.com, they do fantastic things for the Denver community. Give them some love. Julian Donaldson, shout out. I really like getting on tangents, if you haven't noticed. But to talk about that subject in a different light, obviously, Jessie and I spend a lot of time together in the moments of frustration and bad training sessions and good training sessions and good games and dealing with playing time and all of the things that every athlete deals with in some respect, we've had the pleasure of experiencing those things at the highest level, and dealing with them together. And I think what's been so cool with Jessie and I is we've really created this like open and honest friendship of being able to critique each other and also encourage each other in ways that we feel is most helpful for the other person. And that's so valuable as a teammate and as a friend, to have those people that you can be honest with. And she tells me things I do not want to hear sometimes, but makes me better. So just know that I appreciate it when I'm like not being very nice and I've done something wrong and you're like, you're better than that. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But I really know that I am. So she shared with me an article, what was that, last week, 2 weeks ago, about this concept that we spoke about earlier, self-compassion. And the premise of this article was,
you're not going to plug 10% Happier?
10% Happier, subscribe.
Dan Harris.
It's great. She just forwards me these emails and it's lovely. And they're short and they're easy to read and they're incredibly helpful. So many plugs on this podcast. Someone give me a sponsorship. No, I'm just kidding. Not really though. So the premise of self-compassion is kind of like, if you're critiquing yourself for something, viewing it from the mindset of a good friend and what you would say to yourself as a friend in that moment. And it was like so profound, because I think about how easy it is for me. Like when you come in the room after training and you want to put your head through the wall because you took a bad touch one time in training, and I'm like sitting there laughing and I'm like, Jessie, are you serious? Like, you were the best player on the pitch today, you had one bad touch. But it's impossible to see that yourself sometimes. Thoughts?
No, yeah, like I mean, I think you did a really good job of describing it. I don't know, it's just kind of like mentally reframing how you approach your inner thoughts. So when you're having that like, I was shit today, like it's the end of the world, like my career is over, like you're just like ruminating and things are just escalating, you slow down and think to yourself, okay, what would I say if Janine or another one of my really good friends was in this situation and they were expressing these thoughts to me? And like, it sounds so simple, but usually we don't talk to ourselves like that. Like usually like those negative thoughts are really sticky. So we just continue to repeat those in our head. Whereas if I was talking to Janine, I would say, okay, slow down. Like, was it really that bad of a practice? It's one practice, you know? So I think it's just like being able...
Do you speak to me like that, or do you say, stop being stupid?
Okay, well, sometimes I say that. But yeah, it's just like, it's reframing how you're like perceiving those negative thoughts.
Which are super powerful, by the way. Negative thoughts are so much more powerful than positive thoughts.
Yeah. And just
like,
yeah, I don't know, just being able to put things in perspective and be a bit kinder to yourself on like when that's happening or when you're ruminating on those thoughts.
It's such a good lesson. And both of us have been putting in the work on the mental side of the game, which I will say, for anyone who doesn't do the work on the mental side of the game, like, start, because it is so important. And I've learned that lesson the hard way over the last couple of years, especially like making this move. So kudos to you, because you're in your first year of the UK and you are miles beyond where I was. So that's the other great thing, is learning from experience. You know, that's why we have friends. So yes, we like to be each other's critics sometimes, but also tell each other when we're being stupid, because a ball came off my shin in training and it's the end of the world. Right. Yeah. Well, we're going to finish with some quick fire questions.
Okay.
Which I'm coming up with on the spot.
What?
So this could be interesting. I told you the best way to do this is... No, I'm just kidding. I just didn't prepare these because I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it earlier and I was like...
Very preparation.
Let's just do it on the fly. Iced coffee or hot coffee?
Depends on the weather outside. If it's hot, iced coffee. If it's cold, hot coffee.
That's
easy.
such a boring answer.
But that's just how I operate. I don't understand. If I'm in California, I'm going to be drinking iced coffees. If I'm in England, I'm going to be drinking warm coffees.
I mean, it's fair. It's logical. That's one thing you are. Mountains or beach?
Mountains.
Ooh. Yet she spent 4 years in California. But she's Canadian.
We have mountains in California.
It makes sense. It's true. Not where you were.
Well,
there's like snowy mountains in LA that I've never seen.
You can see snow peaks from LA.
Okay, you can see them. Doesn't mean they're in
Okay,
LA.
what's the next question?
See, this is our relationship in a nutshell. I want to laugh, and Jessie's like, next. You don't have anything to do.
Huh?
You don't even have a watch on. She just looked at a fake watch. Okay. If you had to...
No.
choose one person from the national team to be stranded on an island with for a month, who would it be and why?
So I need to think practically.
Or you could have fun with it.
Well, I'm trying to think both. Somebody who's funny, but also maybe has some survival skills. No, you would go lose your mind.
I would not.
I would not pick you. I'm sorry. Who would I pick?
Wow, I'm taking that so personally. It's fine. I'm not actually. It's very understandable.
I don't know.
We already spent enough time together.
Maybe,
what about Chappie?
Des is no. My Chappie might eat me. Honestly, I would be scared for my life, but I think I would be running from her the whole time.
Desi's a good one.
Desi's a good one because it would just be like good vibes by the campfire. Like
Desi's all about the good vibes.
Yeah.
All right, is that your final answer?
She's like a destroyer. She could. I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna lock it.
That's a strong answer. That's a strong answer.
No, Erin's not good in the wild.
She would be great for your inner self, though.
Exactly.
You would be.
It would be very like a meditation retreat with Erin for a month.
You would be very calm.
Yeah.
But hey.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So Desi Scott. Shout out to the destroyer. Wow, that's like the highest order of compliment right there. Okay, let's go 2 more. Okay, question. This is not a quick fire question. This is just a question. Have you had a proper curry since you moved to the UK?
Well, I don't know. I've had curry, but I don't know if it's proper.
Okay, what kind of curry did you have?
I mean,
did you get it from a curry shop?
Okay,
we're gonna go with no because you would know if you've had one. So that's severely disappointing. We need to get you on that train. You need to have a good talk with your teammates because that is not being a good teammate.
Well, I mean, we are kind of in lockdown, so I'm a little restricted.
Delivery.
Well, I'm just not even gonna.
All right, yeah. Do you have no excuses for this? Well, that's like everything that I wanted to talk to you about.
That's your rapid fire question.
All right, you give me one if you're so good at this.
Well, I mean, I would have prepared some.
See, this was a segment I didn't know if we were going to do. So you're right. Always be prepared. That's my bad. I dropped the ball on that one.
I don't have any questions for you.
Okay, she knows everything about me. It's not exciting.
I know too much.
She loves it. All right, well, Jessie probably has homework to do. Am I right?
Yeah, but don't expose me.
Because she's going to be an engineer. That's not being exposed. That is big deal. Your girl here's got a communications degree, which is why we're doing this.
Probably not going to use my degree, so it's okay.
Oh, you will.
Everyone has their own little niche, and the world needs more dorks in their own little niche.
And this is why we get along so well, because she says things like this, and then it makes me smile.
There's not one type of intelligence. There's
You're very, very right. I'm going to take that with me the rest of my day.
Yeah, it's like I could never play center back. There's not one type of good player, you know?
I think you can do it.
Anyways, you know what I mean.
Let's not explore that option, but if need be. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I've successfully made it through my coffee. How about you?
I still have a little left.
Oh, she's a slow drinker of the coffee. But everyone, look forward to round 2 of Jessie Fleming on Brewing with Beckie, when we can actually have a brew in person, either in Manchester or London. Did you say, do I have to?
No, I said round 2.
I think she said, do I have to? Well, thanks for joining me, J Flem.
My agent.
It's always a pleasure.
Okay.
Say bye to the people.
Bye.